Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dear Dr. Fantasy. And for my very special guest today, I have none other than Andrew Watson. Hello, Andrew. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing good, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm very excited to talk to you for various reasons. One of which is you are, of course, the author of this beauty right here, Harbinger of Justice. I have not read it yet, but when I finish with SPFBO, which is I'm in the midst of and enjoying very much, I have a whole heap of other self-published authors that I really want to get to, and you're on that list. And here is this beautiful book. So, and I hear
Thank you.
really great things about it, by the way. So I'm very excited to get to this. And of course, not only are you an author, but you are a booktuber with a very vibrant and growing channel. Lots of good things
Thank
going
you.
on there. So yeah, good stuff. And also, I believe you can confirm this for me. You are an editor as well, video editor. Is that correct?
I am. Yeah, that's pretty much my full-time job is video editing. So,
Oh,
yeah.
wow. Okay. So you actually know what you're doing on,
Yeah.
on this
Well,
platform.
that's debatable. It depends who you ask.
But you
But I do,
actually you do some editing for some of our friends on the platform. Is that correct?
yeah, Jed Hearn is one I edit for.
Yeah.
I think I do pretty much all of his edits now. So, my
Wow.
full-time channel is edits now.
And he does let you out of that basement from time to time to breathe the
Occasionally
free
lets me
air.
in. Yeah.
And okay.
Yeah. He lets me to shoot my own videos, and that's about it. So, yeah.
No, Jed is wonderful. I actually
Yeah,
had
he's
a
great.
chance to talk to him for Dear Dr. Fantasy. Great fellow who really did me a big favor by just reaching out and saying, "Hey, you want to chat?" And he had some great ideas for me. And I can't say I followed up on all of them as well as possible, but I took some of those to heart. And he also is a writer himself. His channel is mostly about writing advice and such. But yeah, you do a great job of editing, by the way. Those look
Thank you.
slick. Those are
Thank you.
slick looking videos.
Yeah.
So yeah.
To be fair,
Wow.
Jed is really on the ball with his video. He's really killing it recently.
Yeah.
And he does a lot of like pre-production and stuff. And so it's really easy to edit because he has got so much of it laid out and how he likes it. So it
Uh-huh.
does make my life as an editor a lot easier because he knows what he wants. And
Interesting.
he's really
Interesting.
good at getting it across.
Yeah, I'm sure it's easier for you to work with people who have a sort of vision that they can explain
Mhm.
to you and that they have some knowledge of what's possible and what's not. And
Yeah.
yeah, that does make it a lot easier. But you add some expertise, and I'm sure you also, when you're editing, you think, well, here's an idea. And do you do that? Do you ever say to the
Yeah.
creator,
Oh yeah,
hey,
definitely.
I could do
Yeah.
this here. Would you like that? Yeah.
Yeah, we've definitely had back and forth and stuff, especially early on when we've kind of tried a lot of different things, and then we've
Ah,
come to like some templates and some ideas that we like this idea to keep it consistent. But earlier on, yeah, there was a fair bit of back and forth with coming up with how to lay things out and such. So that was
interesting.
quite fun.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I know it's not uncommon on YouTube in general for, as they say, content creators, people with channels to hire editors. I don't know how common it is on BookTube, though. I mean, I feel like most of us are amateurs, but there are a few people out there who really are going that extra mile and hiring people like you, like Jed. I think Johan from Library of a Viking also has
Yeah,
used at times an editor
yeah.
as well. So
I don't
there are
think
some,
all of them, but yeah, I think he has had editors and stuff on board. I mean,
yeah.
even Daniel Green, I think he edits a fair bit of his own stuff as well,
Uh-huh.
but he does have an editor or editors that he goes
Oh,
to
no kidding.
occasionally.
Okay. Yeah. And he's got obviously got a ton of production value in his
Yeah.
videos. He's not like me, just like hitting record and just blabbing without any edits or any cuts or anything. And then just, he's got a lot of stuff going on in his videos and obviously does it really well. So, yeah.
I wish I had this skill like with your channel and Mike's channel, Mike's book reviews. You guys can just sit and talk and it comes out so eloquently and well. I wish I had that skill, whereas I'm just like, I need to cut here. This makes no sense. Cut this out. Cut this pause out. cut this bit where I'm staring at the wall, wondering what I'm saying. There's a fair bit of just cutting bits out in my
Yeah.
editing process.
I think a lot of that comes from in Mike's case, of course, because he did a lot of podcasting, and
Yeah,
he's got that golden voice. Nobody can just that's just genetic unfairness, right? I mean,
and it is.
yeah,
It should be illegal, really.
Yeah, it should be. In my case, I have had a couple decades or more of teaching in front of a classroom, so that helped, I think, when I started the channel in many respects. But just being able to blab for a while without stopping, I guess it's a skill, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Cool. Wow. So yeah, I've been fascinated by that. And so it's actually your job as a professional, full time. Are you a freelance worker or do you have it like you're
yeah,
employed
freelance,
person?
yeah,
Freelance.
yeah,
Wow.
freelance editor, yeah,
That is so cool. And do you stay pretty busy? Is it a
yeah.
very in demand service? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of you you occasionally get like clients like Jed that you work with for a long time, and other times you get like one-off projects and stuff like
Uh-huh.
that, which is quite fun. So it's probably more one-off projects or it lasts a couple months or whatever to edit that part and then
Okay.
you're off. That's kind of done. But yeah,
Cool. Can I ask? I mean, just tell me if I'm being too nosy or if you can't answer this kind of question, but what's the range of clients that you have? Like a lot of YouTube people, or do you have like professional companies that are trying to make videos for their company, or what kind of clients do you get?
currently it's mainly YouTube stuff. So there's
Okay.
Jed and there's this other channel called I think Arcane Crime is what the channel name is, and
Okay.
he's a writer as well, and he
Ah.
does a lot of like world building videos
Oh,
and things
cool.
about him. Yeah, it's really cool. I think he had this video where he redesigned wands, which was really interesting. He put
Oh,
so
wow.
much thought into it, and it was a really cool video to edit. And he's like a writer, and he's kind of putting all this world building into these videos. So I'm working with him as well. So
Very
it's a lot of
cool. Yeah. All right. Well, that's awesome. So, well, I just this is my curiosity. I primarily invited you because of because of this and because of the YouTube
YouTube.
channel. But I do find it fascinating when people don't mind talking about their day jobs, and yours happens to be extremely relevant to what we do
Yeah.
here. So
It's
that's
quite
what,
cool because I do feel like everything kind of combines with each other because I'm
yeah,
either writing or I'm working on book videos or I'm working with clients. It's all basically at the moment writing related. So it's
yeah,
really cool all the crossovers and how helpful it is because you kind of know what you're doing from each other, which is really useful.
yeah, yeah. And these days, I feel like if you want to be a writer, it is maybe not essential, but it's pretty close to essential to have some social media marketing skills,
Oh
to
yeah.
be at least willing to jump into that that ocean that is social media.
Yeah.
Um, and you have skills that really are important in that regard, don't you? So that's really
Thanks.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's useful. When I kind of got into doing YouTube at the start, it's funny because I had all the technical skills, but the hard part is talking to like a camera and coming up with
Oh.
video content and stuff like that. That was completely new to me because I was always behind the camera. So that was very much a skill that I had to learn. But
Yeah, so
I
you
had the
and I are
technical skills.
complete opposites because I
Yeah.
went into it being able to blab, but being more or less a tech idiot. So famously, I had the worst thumbnails on YouTube for a long time
I heard you
until
saying that.
until my daughter actually stepped in to help me out and taught me how to make thumbnails. And
That's great.
I actually had to pay her at first, really, but finally she got sick of it and said, "Here, you do it." Taught me to use it. I just use a couple free apps for mine, but yeah.
I, I do love your thumbnails with getting like the faces on the different characters. I love that. I think it always looks so good. It always makes me
It's
laugh when I see it in my sub box.
it's become the sort of a trademark Dear Dr. Fantasy thing, I guess. But I like being goofy sometimes, and my thumbnails, I like to say that they verge from being so bad into being so good, because some of them are just so cheesy and badly done. Some of my best are actually really badly done. I don't use Photoshop because I can't afford it, but um, it looks like a really bad Photoshop job, and they turn out to be somehow some of my best. So, but anyway, so yeah, well, let's talk about you and I just briefly touched on this before I started recording, and I do want to get to my standard question for you later, but because I'm curious about your writing inspirations and other things. But I do want to talk for a little while since I had this opportunity to chat with you. I mentioned before we started how I'm guessing that a majority of people who have booktube channels are probably aspiring writers or writers. But I feel like there's a pool of us, a minority, who are both booktubers and actually have taken that plunge and have published, whether it be self-publishing or traditionally published authors. There are some traditionally published authors with channels as well. Brandon Sanderson, heard of him? Yeah. Okay.
Who is that? No, I'll have to look him up.
Christopher Rocchio is another one um, that I know of. Brian Lee Durfee is another one. So there are some traditionally published ones out there, and I know that they tend to focus on their own writing. But Brian Lee Durfee's like us; he'll talk about other books. He likes Stephen King, for example, or whatever. He'll talk about whatever he's reading, and he'll do not top 10, because in his case it's like top 60 or something, because
Yeah.
he doesn't just do top 10. Um, but you know what I mean? So there are some traditionally published ones out there, but then there are a lot of us self-published people who are booktubers. And in my case, I feel like it all comes from the same passion that I love this genre. I love fantasy. It's part of what I do when I teach. It's this YouTube channel. It's my writing, and I can't just separate these things. And so you're in the same boat, really, as a booktuber who talks about other people's writing because you love it, and also as a published author. So I want to talk about writing and being a booktuber and that tightrope that we kind of have to walk. Um,
Yeah.
it's sometimes there are even people who are critical of us for doing this, for being a booktuber and publishing. So I want to hear your thoughts on walking that tightrope, what it's been like for you, and I'll stop blabbing for a while.
No, yeah, it's weird because I kind of stumbled into YouTube. I kind of always wanted to do writing, but YouTube was kind of just kind of happened because I was really into filmmaking and things like that in high school.
Oh,
But
cool.
then I got my degrees in digital media, which is why I'm like a video editor. So I've always had a passion in video making and things like that. But I'd never connected it with book related things, which
Ah,
you think I would be smart enough to take two together. But it took me a while to figure out that I could do that. So I was watching a lot of booktube, but I was actually pretty active on Instagram first and joined
uh-huh.
in with the book community there because they could take pictures of books and talk to people about books. And that's kind of where I first saw the back and forth in the community where you got to talk about what books you were reading. I was like, I love this. This is great. This is really cool. So I joined it for that and I was interacting with the community. I saw Johan, Library of a Viking.
Yep.
He made the jump from Instagram to YouTube. I was like, why am I not doing that as well? That looks like a lot
Uh,
of fun. And it's a
yeah.
different crowd of people as well. So it's just more people to talk to about books. So I do think that it's really good. And it will probably half the reason why people have picked up my book is through YouTube and Instagram and just seeing me online. But I didn't necessarily do it as a marketing move. But I
Uh-huh.
do think we'll see more people moving towards using it for that kind of thing because
Yeah.
it is really good to get your book out there and separate it because there's so many being released
Yeah.
that it puts eyes on your book, which is really,
Oh,
really
yeah.
helpful when you're an indie.
Absolutely. I mean, not you can't see it in this video because I'm using my desktop computer, but when I film other videos, I have a poster of my book cover on the wall behind me, and that's marketing in a way. I mean, I like it; it looked pretty, and it
Yeah, it looks
reminds me
great.
of my book, but it's also marketing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what advice would you give people? Because there are a lot of self-published authors who have channels. And to be quite honest with you, a lot of them are doing great work and they're really insightful people and they have a lot to say that I love, but a lot of those channels just don't seem to get the traction. They don't seem to, whatever reason. I mean, the algorithm is kind of cruel, I think, in many ways on this platform. It
Yeah.
favors those who already have a ton of subscribers over those who are struggling to get started. So for whatever reason, it can be hard to make this a viable means of not just marketing, but connecting, getting, creating a community, what have you. Because there can be a mixture of motives for a person to start a channel. So what advice would you give to, let's say, a self-publishing author who's thinking, gosh, I just wish I could have a platform, a channel maybe on YouTube that would help me out, plug me into this community that is so wonderful and supportive, and give me a place to talk about books, but including my books sometimes, what advice would you give such a person?
That's honestly, it's such a tough question because, like you said, it is so difficult. And the problem is, it's a different skill set from writing, and people who are really into writing aren't necessarily even interested in going into doing the social media site. And I
Yep.
do think that a lot of people look at the social media site as a form of marketing or something that they have to do, then get put off of it just because that's how they
Oh,
are
yeah.
approaching it, which is,
Great point. That is a really good point. Because if you're doing this because you think you have to,
yeah,
it's not going to work. Yeah. You've
the
got to have
no,
that passion. You got to have the passion.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, the number of writers that have said, "Oh, I hate doing the social media thing." But if you don't look at it as doing the social media thing, but if you pick a platform, even I know Twitter is really popular because it's all text based and we're writers, so text based makes a lot of sense. So a lot of people go to Twitter and just interact with people and talk to people about books and just join in the community and don't think of it as
Yeah.
posting content, but think of it as interacting with people and other readers and authors and just having the back and forth. And I think that's a lot more rewarding as well as
Mm,
just posting your thoughts as content, if that makes sense, especially
yeah.
to begin with. If you want to then start looking at growth and improving your channel, you're going to start thinking about it slightly differently. But I do think it doesn't need to be that way for everybody. There is a way to just kind of get into the community and sort of interact without looking at it as a thing that you have to do, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. I think that's real wisdom there. So, and the trick is how do I make myself passionate about social media? Which
Yeah.
I was not at all a social media person myself. I had to gradually and I'm still pretty amateurish. I'm not even on Instagram. I should be. I'm told many times, why aren't you on Instagram? So maybe I'll take that plunge at some point. But I just sort of tiptoed into Twitter a few years ago, and I fiddle around there sometimes. You see me on Twitter sometimes.
Yeah, and it's
So
definitely a time thing as well because I
yeah,
do have a Twitter, but I'm barely ever on it. I don't post that often. I go on and I interact with people and talk with people when I
yeah,
can, but it is difficult because there is so many as well. It's
yeah.
difficult to be on them all and be active on them
It
all.
feels also when I'm on Twitter like I'm in an ocean and
Yeah,
I'm a little drop of water in this ocean, and I'm like, it just
what's
feels.
going on?
Yeah. Now, would you say that Instagram is a better place to be for a writer than Twitter? Or is
That's a
it
tough
too
one.
simplistic a question?
No, I think probably Twitter would be the best one because I do think it has the most amount of authors and other writers because it is text based. But
Okay.
that's not to say that the Instagram community isn't amazing because that's where I started because that's
Uh-huh.
what I saw first. Well, I saw YouTube, but that looked like a harder thing to get into. So
Yeah.
Instagram is kind of where I started and get into it and started talking with people. And the community there is amazing. I've met so many people over there that are incredible, and there are tons of authors on there too.
Okay.
But if you're looking for just number of authors, I think Twitter's probably got more because that's one of the reasons why I'm trying to move to Twitter too, is so I can talk with all these amazing people like
Okay.
yourself because I can't message you on Instagram. So
Yeah, because
yeah,
I'm
you just
not
have to
there.
do
I need to get there eventually. But what about Facebook? So let's talk about that one. I know a couple of my favorite authors. That's their preferred platform, like Mark Lawrence or Stephen Erickson, for example. I don't know if that's Mark Lawrence's preferred, but he's active on Facebook,
that.
and so is Stephen Erickson, somewhat active there. Whereas it's like a once in a blue moon thing for Stephen Erickson to appear on Twitter. I think he actually probably doesn't like it very much. But
Hmm.
but anyway, I won't speak for him, but he's much more active on Facebook. But I feel like most younger people, especially, are not very interested in Facebook. I'm on Facebook, but it's my private thing. Please don't anyone try to follow me on Facebook because I won't follow you back. It's just I'm not that active there, and I don't feel like it is unless you're an author who already has an established following on Facebook. Would you recommend anyone even try on Facebook these days?
I don't know. I'm in the same boat as you. I've only got like my personal account. I don't attach to anything book related on
Yeah,
Facebook, and even that, I don't even use the personal account that often. So
I don't either
it's
anymore.
there's
Yeah,
no, and I know there is communities over there, and there are large indie groups in particular and things like that. They're meant to be really good. I think Zach Argyle has mentioned a couple of times that he's gone to Facebook and
sure.
used that,
Okay.
and I think I've seen his name over there as well. But it's just I don't really know enough about it. I don't see enough
Yeah.
people talking about it that I don't think it's worth looking into personally. But I might be completely wrong. I don't really
Uh-huh.
know. But personally, it's not something I thought about doing. I know the upside is that you can run ads and things. Apparently, ads on Facebook can be really good for authors, especially indie authors, for paid ads and things. But it's
Mm.
not something again I've looked into.
Yeah, I
And
haven't either. I haven't looked into paid ads on Amazon or
no, me
Facebook.
neither.
I've heard, and this is more or less rumor, I've heard that they're really not worth it anymore. That this is probably more in the context of Amazon, but that there's just so many people trying to that people just ignore these ads now, and you actually
Yeah,
lose more money than you get from those
yeah.
ads. So I haven't even tried, but
Neither
I
have
could
I.
be wrong. There might be an author out there saying, no, 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 they're very effective for me. But
I think it's possible to use it as a really good way to bring traction to your book, but I think it is a skill set even within itself again.
yeah,
Because I think it was ML Spencer, the author of Dragon Mage. I think she talked about it might have been on Jed's channel when he was doing the Wizards, Warriors, and Words podcast. I
okay,
think they had her on and she talked about how she used ads and she did a ton of research into keywords and things like that on Amazon. And she said it did really well for her. But I've also heard that it's not even worth looking into until you've released like 3 books. That's the other thing I've heard is that it's not worth doing until you've got like a backlog of books out to then continue on and get the reader to buy more than one.
interesting.
So
Okay,
that's another piece that I've heard. But for the most part, people say don't do it, especially with debuts and things. It's just not worth it.
interesting. Okay, then there's the other one that we haven't even talked about, which I have no desire to go anywhere near, but maybe I'm an idiot. Is TikTok, of course, right? Are you
Yeah,
involved on TikTok at all?
I'm not. No, no, I'm not. I have. I think it's got a very set demographic. I think a lot of romance fantasy is huge over there. So I think if
Uh-huh.
I was writing romance fantasy, I would perhaps look at doing something on TikTok because
Right.
I know that's like a huge subgenre over there. But
Yeah.
I've not heard a lot of epic fantasy and high fantasy on TikTok. So I might be wrong again because I'm not on there. But from what I've heard, it's not really for
Yeah.
high fantasy and epic fantasy.
So you're saying that a guy in his 50s who's writing epic fantasy might not want to go to TikTok for his primary marketing strategy?
Perhaps not. Yeah. You never know. It might blow up over there, you know?
You never know, right? I might blow up. Uh,
Yeah.
as the kids
I will
say.
make an account to follow you if you make an account on TikTok.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. You're a nice guy. You might be my only follower there.
It would just be you and me over there ourselves talking
Yeah.
about epic fantasy.
Yeah, that'd probably be it. But no, I mean, I know some authors who've made an attempt, and I don't know any in epic fantasy who have had huge breakthroughs on TikTok, but you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
So, and I'm probably going to be corrected in the comments by someone.
Yeah.
So,
There could be. Yeah.
yeah. So, as people might have guessed, I hope they have guessed by now that you have a wonderful Scottish accent, which I totally dig. Um,
Thank you.
and you're from Scotland, obviously. Are you excited for Worldcon in Glasgow?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for Worldcon. It's actually going to be my first convention that I've been to. I went to Edinburgh Book Festival, so but it's not quite the same thing as going to a big convention. I only went to like a couple of things at Edinburgh Book Festival, whereas this convention is kind of like the 5 days, and you can go to
It's
everything.
big,
So
yeah.
yeah, and it's the one that's goes around the world is huge, and the number of authors and reviewers and people going, it's really exciting to meet them in real life, which is really cool.
Yeah, yeah. You probably know quite a few already who are going to be there for the convention, I'm guessing. So, and looks like we have. Okay, so we are back with a little brief interruption there with the, internet stuff. But we are
Scottish weather,
back. Yeah.
relevant to the conversation.
So we were talking about Worldcon, and you were telling me about people that you know you're going to meet there. So you already know some people that you're going to be able to meet in person.
Yeah, it's bizarre because you put putting the faces to the names and things will be really exciting because we I see a lot of people on YouTube and stuff, but a lot of them are on Instagram or Twitter, so it's very different from meeting someone in real life than
It
talking to
is.
them over the internet, which is really exciting, especially
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
authors.
Oh my
I've
goodness.
tempted to just bring a suitcase of like books to get signed.
Is it signed?
Yeah,
Or
just
bring an
roll it
empty
in with the suitcase.
suitcase. Bring an empty suitcase and fill
True,
it up with books that you buy there and get signed.
that's true. That's very
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm excited for you. It's going to be a ton of fun. And I agree with you. There's something surreal and wonderful about meeting the people you've interacted with, whether they be authors or other, people who talk about fantasy and they're excited about it. And it's just really neat because you form these friendships online and then you meet them in person. And I've had the experience myself because I went to ICFA, the International Conference for the Fantastic and the Arts, which happens in Florida. A couple of years ago, I went. I'm missing it this year for family reasons, but it was so much fun to go and meet Stephen Erickson there, as well
That's
as my
cool.
dear friend or nemesis AP Canavan. Uh, and also Jimmy Nuts and Joanna and Alan from the Library of Alexandria. We all got together, and it was just so much fun to meet these people, and also to find out, wow, you actually are just like that. That you are that person that I see on in these videos. Um, that was really cool. Everybody's personality does somehow come out on this platform, even though we are kind of, we are putting on a facade of a sort when we're doing stuff on this platform.
Mm,
You can see some of the real personality, I think, there. So,
yeah,
but yeah,
100%.
it's fun. It's so much fun to meet these people. And I would think that over in the UK that it's not okay. So by American standards, it's a pretty small, area, right? So
Yeah.
I'm kind of jealous in a way because it's easier to get together with people, isn't it?
Mhm.
Because you could have a big get together if you all happen to be in Edinburgh or in London or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm quite near Glasgow as it is. I'm near just on the outskirts of Edinburgh, so
Yeah,
it's pretty close for me to just hop across, which is really good. Because
yeah.
there was a couple of conventions down south, Fantasy Con. It was in, I think it was Birmingham last year, and I missed that just because
Oh yeah,
it's close, but it's still a train journey and hotels and things. And
yeah.
it's not always easy to go down. So it's great that this one's even closer. I'm like, well, I can't. I've not got an excuse this time. It's even closer.
Do you
I
do you
need to go
even
for
you
the.
don't even need a hotel, do you?
Yeah. Well, I probably am going to get a hotel
Okay.
just so I can stay over in Glasgow for the 5 days.
Yeah. Nice.
But
Very
you're right. I
nice.
probably could go back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah. You could do the commute, I suppose, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's neat. I am so jealous. But I do hope you have a blast there. So that is in August, I believe, right?
Yeah. Yeah. August. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I also wanted to get before I ask you my standard question about your influences and your favorite reads in your life. I do want to talk about this beauty here. And I'm sure you have been asked a million times to do your like 1 minute sales pitch or whatever. You can talk as long as you want. You can. I hate being asked. I hate being asked the 1 minute sales pitch myself. So tell me about this book. What kind of world do we have here? What kind of story is it? Yeah, give me your sales pitch, Andrew, as long as you want.
It's funny because I swear the hardest part of writing is after you've written it and you're trying to come up with a synopsis
Yeah.
or like the elevator pitch, and people ask you, it's like, I still don't know. It's been like out for what's that, like 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, probably more than that now. And I'm still not any better at describing it, but I'll give it a
I'm
go.
terrible at it too. I'm terrible. Yeah.
It's tough. It's really tough. But it's a dark fantasy, epic fantasy. Is very reminiscent of well, it takes influences from ancient Egyptian mythology
Oh,
and kind
cool.
of the
Yeah.
setting. That's something that I've always really been into. So I've always wanted to take influence for that and put it in like a fantasy story.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Love
it's
it.
dual POV. It's kind of a big inspiration for me is Brandon Sanderson. So
Okay.
there's sizable amount of world building. I got a bit of world building happy with it, and so there's a lot of different things in this world that I wanted to separate it from Egypt. I do want to take inspiration from Egypt, but I did want it to be its own thing. So there's
Okay. So
lots
it's
of
not historical fantasy.
no,
Okay.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So
Cool.
yeah.
So you said Brandon Sanderson is an important influence in terms of the magic, and I sometimes feel like it's a false dichotomy when people say, "Well, is it hard magic or soft magic?" There's a
Yeah,
lot in between there. So
yeah.
how would you describe that?
It's interesting because I'm not sure I describe it either soft or hard. It is kind of on the scale in between.
Yep.
There's kind of two magic systems. There is this
Ooh.
shadow magic
Okay.
where the main character, well, secondary character, there's dual POV, and the secondary character, Rai, has a creature living in his shadow
Yeah.
called a shade. And that kind of, it lives in his shadow, but can also project, sort of stretch his shadow outwards and use the
Oh.
shadow as like a weapon.
Okay. I like
And
it.
there's a lot of like mystery behind what that is and where he got that from. And Rai is actually researching what the shadow in is. So
Hmm.
that's kind of his plot line, is him looking into and trying to learn the truth about this shade that lives with him in his shadow now.
Ooh.
And the other magic system is this blood magic system, which is probably more of a hard magic system, but you don't get a lot of the details in the first book, but you get a lot more of the details of it in the second book. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Nice. All right. I like it. I do enjoy authors who give me multiple magic systems, like Patrick Rothfuss does in The Name of the Wind, where you've got a hard magic system and a soft one side by
Mhm.
side. You've
Yeah.
got the naming, which is the soft magic system. But then you've got this, university where they're teaching feels very hard magic-y, a lot of
Mhm.
the stuff that they're doing there. Also, Mark Lawrence's one. I don't know if you've read Mark Lawrence or not, but
I've read the book that wouldn't burn. I've
okay,
not read his
cool.
other stuff yet, and I
Lovely.
love that book. So
So if you read Book of the Ancestor, you're going
Mhm.
to be very intrigued by that one because guess what? There is one of the four types of magic systems he has in there. I don't think systems, but the four types of magic that are in there.
Mhm.
One is a shadow based magic.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
into it. I'm
yeah,
sold.
yeah. You
It's
should check
cool.
it out. It's pretty
I
cool.
think I have the first book on my Kindle, actually. I do. It
Red
is one I
Sister.
want to check out. Yeah, Red
Yeah,
Sister. I have that
yeah.
loaded up because it's got one of those like the best first lines in a fantasy book ever. It sounds so cool. I
Yep.
don't know off the top of my head, but it's something like you need a sizable army to take on a nun or something like that. And I was like, I'm in. I'm sold. That's a
Yeah.
cool first line.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and read it here. I mean, I just talked about it this morning on my video, and it is one of the best lines, not in fantasy, but in literature to open a book. It
Great.
is important when killing a nun to ensure that you bring an army of sufficient size. Yeah.
I love that. It's so good.
That is so good, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
No,
that's all I needed to know about that book, and I was like, I'm in. I'm sold.
yeah,
Reading
yeah, yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, I think you're gonna find the shadow magic in there very interesting as well.
I didn't know there was shadow magic. So I'm even more sold on it now. That sounds
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean it is connected with it's kind of a slow reveal, but by the end of the first book, I think you'll get a lot of it, if I remember correctly. But you'll love it, I hope. I think Mark Lawrence is brilliant. But cool. So yeah, thank you for the pitch. This sounds great. I love Egyptian mythology. There aren't a ton of fantasy books that do Egyptian mythology. I know.
No, I'm really hoping we see more. the one that comes to mind for me is actually I don't know if it's YA or middle grade because it's been so long since I read it,
Rick
but the Kane
Riordan.
Chronicles. Yeah,
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 the
yeah, yeah.
Kane Chronicles, Rick Riordan. Yeah, that's the one
That's the
that
only one
I.
I can think of. Is
Yeah,
there,
same.
Neil Gaiman does a little bit with it in American Gods, of course.
Okay, I've not read that, so I
Oh,
have to check
okay.
that.
Yeah, yeah. But he's pulling from all kinds of different mythologies. It's just one of many
Yeah,
there.
because that has Odin in it as well, doesn't it?
Oh
Which is
yeah.
Norse. Yeah,
It's in there. Yeah. Or
yeah,
Wednesday. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's good stuff. I love Gaiman's writing in American Gods, especially. But I'm reading The Sandman now, and it's so cool. And I can see why many consider The Sandman to be his masterpiece. I've long loved American Gods, though.
Hmm.
So many writers to check out.
I
So many.
know.
But we are here to find out which writers you have already interacted with, the ones that have inspired you, the ones that have brought you to this point in your life. So, going on the premise that you are what you read, Andrew, what are some of the formative stories in your life, going all the way back to when you were a wee lad, if you like? Uh, Tell us about some of your favorites.
Okay, yeah. So going right back, it's probably my first interactions. It's like my grandparents reading me stories. And we
Nice.
read like well, the ones I remember, I've got a terrible memory. So I can't remember a lot of the names. I just remember sort of bits from the books. But I
Yeah.
know Philip Pullman was a big one, Golden Compass.
Oh, great, great. Yeah.
I loved the Golden Compass. We also read a lot of like Robert Louis Stevenson, who is a Scottish author, Treasure Island,
Of course.
Kidnapped.
Yeah.
Um, we I think we read Harry Potter, but I'm not sure we started at the start. I think I
Ah,
read Goblet of Fire. So
so you
it
got
is what it is.
traumatized first, and then you read the nice stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. I worked backwards. It's like, okay, this is better.
You started with the book where it gets serious. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it started there. I actually remember a story that my grandparents tell that we often went into town with them and we went on the bus and we got on this really, really busy bus and it was really loud. Everyone was talking, going to town, sunny day. And we moved right to the back of the bus and we sat down and my grandma started reading me and my brother this story.
Huh.
And my granddad tells the story as the longer the bus journey went, the quieter the bus got. And he swears you could tell each row was getting quieter and quieter as they went further away from us, as
Yeah.
everybody was starting to listen to this story that my grandma
Oh,
was reading us until the whole top of the bus was just silent as we're all listening. And then they must have been very peeved when we all got off the bus and they missed the ending. But,
oh
it
no.
was like, oh, well, that's our stop. Gotta go.
That's a wonderful story. Yeah.
Yeah,
So obviously your
that's definitely where it
grandparents
started.
were or are very important people in your life. That's beautiful.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think the first books where I really got attached to like the author was Rick Riordan with Percy Jackson and then King Chronicles and his stuff. And also Darren Shan. I don't
Okay.
know if that's a big US author, if that's just a UK
And
thing.
it might just be my ignorance because you are, of course, a little bit younger than I am. So it might just be me being old. I know, of course, J.K. Rowling and Rick
Mm,
Riordan and
yeah.
those, but I haven't
He
heard
did
of this
a
one.
Cirque du Freak. There was like a movie adaptation of it.
Huh.
It's like a
Yeah.
vampire thing.
Okay.
I don't know if it's middle grade or YA, but anyway, he was a big inspiration. I actually met him at Edinburgh Book Festival one
Oh,
year,
cool.
which was really cool, especially when you're young and you're reading the books and you can see the person behind the book. It's very different now with the internet, but at that point, it wasn't quite the same. So it was cool getting to actually see the authors. Um, so that was really cool. But yeah, I think Rick Riordan was probably the biggest at that point in my life.
Yeah.
And then in very what seems to be very typical fashion, when I got into my teenage years, I kind of lulled with my reading and read
Uh-huh.
a lot less. This seems to be super common. I hear it a ton from lots of different readers that I don't know what it is, but we all just seem to, not everybody, a lot of people seem to take this lull in high school
Well, this
and
is
not
the
read for.
53rd time I've had one of these episodes. And I would
Hmm.
say out of the 53, there've been maybe one or two people who have not fit that pattern that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
It's
yes, it is
crazy.
very common for
Yeah.
people in their teen years and even into the university years to not read
Yeah.
for
Same.
pleasure.
Yes.
To
Yes.
not
It's
read
true.
fiction unless it's for an English course or something like that. So
Yeah.
yep, that happens. Yep. So what brought
Yeah.
you back? What's the story that blew you away
Also
and
pretty
said,
typical. I'm sure you could probably guess it's probably the one that you probably get the most as well. Mistborn by
Miss
Brandon
Bourne?
Sanderson.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say Miss Bourne.
It had to have been. Yeah. I got into watching booktube and obviously I wanted to get back into reading. I always had this inkling that I wanted to be, since I was a kid, I wanted to be a writer. And even with this lull, storytelling was still like a huge part of my life. It just kind of moved to filmmaking and TV and film and sort of that sort of vein of storytelling. And then I always had it in my head that I wanted to get back to writing. So I was watching BookTube, and you can't go anywhere without seeing Mistborn, Brandon Sanderson. So I was like,
Sure.
okay, I'll try it. And then
Yeah.
I loved it. So I was like,
Ah,
I'm sold.
well, you're in
And then I
such
was
great
hook, line, and
company
sinker.
there. You are in great company. That might be the most common answer I hear these days. And like, people like Patrick Leo and many others. That's the series that
Yeah,
just set off that spark. And
yeah.
it's great. I feel like I should write Brandon Sanderson, even though I'm not like a Cosmere reader. I've read Mistborn and the first three, not the later stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I read the first three Stormlight Archive books, and I really enjoyed them for the most part. But I can't consider myself like a major Sanderson fan. But I
Mm.
feel like I should write him a letter just to thank him for bringing so many people into
Yeah,
the fantasy genre. I feel like
yeah.
we sometimes I can be honestly a little resentful of it's not his fault that he's successful. But a lot of people seem to equate fantasy with now hard magic systems and stuff like that.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's not Sanderson's fault. He's just,
No, no. Yeah.
but I feel I'm more of a fan of the soft magic. I like a little wonder and mystery in my magic. But anyway, that's all just silly stuff. I really love that he's brought so many people into this genre, that he has inspired so many people to become readers of fiction and fantasy. It's just great. I mean, he should know. I'm sure he's told this once in a while, but he should
Probably.
know what a great thing he's done in that, because there are a few writers, and you can make a list, who seem to just catch the imagination of lots of people. J.K. Rowling, of course, you mentioned Harry
Mm.
Potter is one. I would throw J.R. Tolkien from a previous generation or
Yeah.
two in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's somehow they just capture the imagination of a generation, and they bring lots of people into writing. And Brandon Sanderson is there. He's really there. George R. R. Martin is another one, I'm sure, who
Yeah.
kind of
Definitely.
transcends the genre, where he's recognizable outside of fantasy fans and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
My
yeah,
mind was blown when I was speaking to my neighbor, and I was talking about writing a book, and this was before I published it. And he was like, "Oh, what type of books do you write?" I was like, "Ah, like Brandon Sanderson," and he was like, "Oh yeah, I know Brandon Sanderson," and he's
yep,
not like a big fantasy reader. And I was like, "Oh, that's great," because most people will have heard of J.R.R. Tolkien and J.K. Rowling, but sometimes Sanderson, it feels like he's this huge thing, but sometimes the casual market doesn't necessarily know who he is. So
yeah.
when you hear this, like, "Oh yeah, I know him," it's like, "Oh, that's really cool."
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's going to get increasing. You know what will make a difference? I hate to say this, but I'm pretty sure it's true.
Yeah.
If anything of his gets adapted into
Yeah, and yeah,
screen, and then
mhm,
suddenly he'll be a household name, I'm sure.
yeah,
I just think it's a
100%.
matter of when, not if that
Oh
happens.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
I
don't
think
know what.
because he is so popular and things now, he said himself he has the luxury of one time, and two, he can pick the right people and make sure this going to be a faithful adaptation,
Yeah.
which does have me excited because the fact that he's like, I want to do this right, is like, okay, that has my hopes up for an adaptation of his work.
Of which one do you think it'll be?
Probably Mistborn would be my guess. I think
Okay.
Mistborn, probably a movie or a
Okay.
trilogy.
That would be, yeah, at least a trilogy, I think, to give it
Yeah,
justice. That would be very interesting. And I'm sure he would want to be involved in the project. And
yeah,
of course, if he's not, then I think everyone would be panicking about the fidelity to the
yeah,
book
yeah,
and all of that. Which Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get myself in trouble here by talking about adaptation too much, but I happen to be, for whatever reason, whatever my constitution is, or whatever it might be, I happen to be of that the way of thinking that I don't necessarily need an adaptation to be super faithful. I don't want a beat for beat, retelling
I
of what's
agree.
in the book, because that's not even possible, and it would be boring if you tried in most cases.
Mm,
You have to, as somebody adapting a story into a different medium, you have to make changes, and in many cases from book to screen, that's going to entail streamlining, that's going to entail combining characters, and they've done it in, uh, Game of Thrones, for example. Whole characters never appeared in that television series that are in the books. And I think that was a smart decision on the part of the showmakers. But it seems like lately a lot of fans of books have been very upset at certain adaptations. So it's become almost a really like sensitive topic now, hasn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think I think there is this idea from some fans, it has to be one for one when you adapt it, and it's like you
Right.
just can't do that. It just doesn't work.
No.
It needs to be reworked in some way for it to fit
Right.
into this new medium because it's so different. And I think there is this mindset that if it isn't exactly how I pictured it, but then of course everybody pictures it differently,
Yeah.
you're never going to get it right for everybody. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is a sore subject. It seems to
It
be.
is very sore, but I do think, gosh, can we let go of our egos just a little bit here? And just because what you're seeing on the screen isn't exactly what's in your head, well, how are they going to get in your head and put it on the screen?
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
that said, it does really take my breath away when I see an adaptation that does nail it, at least for me. And Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings films are a case in point, for a lot of us,
100%.
where I saw the first few minutes of that movie and I was in the Shire. I was like, whoa, they got it.
Yeah.
I had tingles, in sitting in that theater. And what was it, 2000, I think, 2001?
Yeah,
Yeah,
2000, 2001
yeah.
London, yeah.
I saw it when it came out. Very, very, because I grew up on Tolkien, and I was a bit of a snob, to be honest with you. And I was thinking, oh, there's no way this is going to be good. But the first few minutes converted me, and I thought, oh wow, they got it.
I love that, yeah. And
I will
then
say the Fellowship was my favorite of the films. And
same,
yeah,
same here. And I think it's just because they nailed the Shire. The feeling that you get in that first
yeah,
section where you're in the Shire, you can't recreate that. It's so
yeah.
good.
I do think that Viggo Mortensen had a point when he criticized Peter Jackson, for relying more and more on the CGI and stuff like
Mm,
that. Because
okay.
in the Fellowship, I think there's a more organic feel
Mm,
to the film.
yeah,
And he gets more and more CGI as the series goes. And then when he made the Hobbit films, he just went
yeah.
crazy with the
It was also,
technology,
yeah.
and that took a lot of the life out of the films for me.
Yeah, I agree
The
with that.
emphasis went toward, like, how can we make this cool CGI scene
Mm,
from what's good storytelling here,
yeah.
so I feel like that's no, I don't know anyone who's ever said that the Hobbit films are as good as Lord of the Rings.
No, I've not heard that.
Somebody out there is going to say that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure someone,
Um,
yeah.
But I agree with Viggo Mortensen, who was openly critical, and saying, yeah, we just kind of went a little too much into the technology. And whereas in the earlier films, they had all these really cool effects that they were achieving without technology,
Yeah,
right?
the practical effects, yeah.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
so cool.
yeah. So they had two, like they had Bilbo's house built, I think the two different scales or something, or
Mm,
they had, Frodo sitting next to Gandalf in the cart, but he wasn't really next to him. He was
yeah,
way
it's all
back.
set.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's so
Uh,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, it's so
you
clever.
also watched the
Behind the
extended
scenes.
editions with all the
Yeah,
little appendices there, didn't you?
yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, it's so good.
I mean, we're nerds. We have to watch that stuff,
And
right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. It has to be like an annual thing. It's the
Yeah.
rules. Yeah.
Of
And
course, you were pretty young when that film came out, I guess.
yeah, I'm not sure I actually watched it in the cinema. I
Uh-huh.
might be wrong. I might have saw one of them in the cinema, but my memory of the Lord of the Rings was the movies first. And I was actually off ill from school, and I was unwell, and I was watching films all day, and I'd
Wow.
watched all the films in our house. And I was like, oh, there's no films left, and I went behind and I found the VHSs for the Lord of the Rings, and I was like,
Wow.
these look all right. I'll put them on, and then I was pretty much obsessed from that point on. It
Oh,
was just
okay.
that was it. So yeah,
Nice. Making good use of sick time then. Yeah,
yeah,
nice.
exactly, yeah.
Very cool. So, okay, so we totally interrupted your reading journey there. I think we had covered your youth, and Brandon Sanderson brought you back into
Yes.
reading and fantasy in particular. And what else? What else do you love?
It pretty much just spiraled from there, to be to be honest. I went
Okay.
from reading like one book a year to then reading is all the time. I maybe don't read every day, but I read a lot more. And that was when I got into Ember Blade was one of the earlier ones because I had read Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit during high school when I was in that lull, and I
Uh-huh.
loved them. They were great. It's just I don't know if it's a timing thing with school because you are doing so much prescribed reading,
Yeah.
so it didn't necessarily draw me back in. But after that, and I still love Lord of the Rings. It's an amazing book. So yeah, and then after Sanderson, it pretty much just spiraled from there. From Emberblade, Rage of Dragons was one of the earlier
Okay.
ones around that time. I'm trying to think what else. I just continued a lot of Sanderson because you
Uh-huh.
can spend years just catching up with his work.
Have you actually read everything in the Cosmere at this point?
No, I'm a couple books behind. I've not read Elantris, his first one,
Okay.
and I think that's it. I think that's the only full-length novel I've not read. I think there's
Okay.
some novellas and stuff that I've not read yet, but
Yeah.
almost up to. Oh no, I've not read the end of Mistborn Era 2. I've read the first two books, and
Oh,
there's
okay.
four.
Okay.
So I
Well,
need to
you're
read
way
the
ahead of
third and
me.
fourth
I can tell you that. What would you
one.
recommend for me as someone who has read the original Mistborn books and liked them, and also I've read the first three Stormlight Archive. I will continue in those. I intend to read Rhythm of War just before book 5 comes out.
Yeah.
Because I missed the boat when everybody was reading Rhythm of War. I missed the boat, so I'm waiting until shortly before book 5. What would you recommend for me? I tend to like the more literary end of the genre, but I'm open-minded. I like to try lots of things. But what would you recommend for me to read besides those things, besides Mistborn and Stormlight Archive? If I'm going to read the best, most literary Sanderson book, which one would it be?
I would probably point you to Emperor's Soul, which is a novella. So it's just a
Okay.
short piece, but
Okay.
I think
Good.
it is often referred to as one of his best work. And
Okay.
is he's not a particularly literary type author, but I
Okay.
do think on the scale that's probably closer to it than some of his other work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Warbreaker is also one that's supposed to be well, is really good, and it's one that's quite good to tie into the rest of the Cosmere.
Okay.
But I do think that you would like Emperor's Soul probably
Emperor's
more.
Soul and Warbreaker. Okay. And
Yeah,
Warbreaker is also a standalone?
it's currently. I think there is plans for sequels eventually, but
Okay.
he's
Okay.
not got to yet.
Well,
I
he
think
only
that's going to be
writes
the
like
focus.
5 books a year, so
Yeah, yeah. At least you know you won't have to wait long.
yeah. Yeah, no, and what you said is true. I don't think of him as being on the more literary end of the genre, which is honest. Let's be frank. That's part of his success is that his writing is very accessible,
Yeah.
which is smart. I mean, he knows exactly what he's doing.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
he knows exactly what he's doing, and he's writing stories that are accessible to the largest possible audience. And yeah, it's great.
it feels very. I like his work because it feels very clean storytelling. Like
Yeah,
when it comes to the ending, I think this is why so many people like the Sanderlanche because it all just seems to come together at the
sure,
end
sure,
so
yeah,
neatly, and I think that that's really well plotted out work and character work, and how it all pulls together is just really impressive. So it does feel very clean, and I think that's why a lot of people like it. And it feels very not simple. Simple's not the right word given how deep his worlds are, but just
right,
straightforward, if that makes sense. Like
yeah,
there's not much in the way of loose ends other than
yeah.
Cosmere type things that's meant to be a loose end.
Yeah, yeah. No, he puts those little Easter eggs in there and that sort of thing, which I know fans love.
Yeah,
I've compared him to the MCU in that sense, which I
100%.
think that's a lot of fun,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, very cool. All right, well, I will eventually try those. I promise you. I will try the Emperor's
Emperor's Soul.
Soul. That's I was gonna
Yeah.
say Blade for some reason. Emperor's Soul
I'd be
and
really interested to hear what
Warbreaker.
you think of Emperor's Soul, actually. I
Yeah.
think I think you'll like that one.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I should give that a shot. I really should. Uh, because I especially loved the first two Stormlight Archive books.
Hmm.
Really love those. Some great moments in those books. And there's
Yeah.
some great moments even in Oathbringer as well. That one got, for me at least, a little tedious.
Yeah, I felt
Just,
that with
yeah.
Oathbringer a bit as well. I will say
Did you?
that
Okay.
Rhythm of War is quite divisive. It seems to be some people really like it and some people really don't like it. But the
Uh-huh.
one thing that is better is it's more um, it's not it's a Stormlight book, so streamlined is not the right word, but it's more streamlined
Right.
than Oathbringer. it's
Okay.
got I did feel like Oathbringer was probably the most padded and could have been trimmed back.
Yeah.
So there isn't as much of that in Rhythm of War, which is quite
Okay.
good.
Cool. Cool. Yeah. I actually look forward to reading it finally. And and the book five is going to finish this arc, right?
Yes.
In the
Yeah.
Stormlight Archive. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then
And
he'll
then
take a
we'll.
break, quite a sizable break. He said in his newsletter, it was a couple of years. I can't remember because there was a big, not controversy, but people were like, "What? There's going to be like 5, 6 years between Stormlight 5 and 6 because he's going to jump into like the sequels to Elantris and Warbreaker. So there's going to be
Okay.
quite a sizable break. So that'll
Huh.
be interesting.
Okay.
So
Well,
I think the fifth one will be a an ending of sorts.
okay. That'll be a satisfying ending, and the subsequent arc, book 6 through 10, as planned, will
Yeah,
there'll be a gap chronologically speaking, right?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All right. Cool. All right. Very nice. So Sanderson is definitely up there for you, obviously,
yeah.
as an important influence. And anyone that you're curious, though, to say, I really think I would like this author, or I really want to try this. What do you have your eyes on for the future?
So many books. It's unreal, and there's so many like ones that are being read currently that I just immediately want to jump upon, but I really want to continue with the series that I've started. So right now I am actually reading Robin Hobb for the first time,
Oh,
which
yay.
is
Okay. But where
just
are
so
you
much
in
fun.
where are you in Realm of the Elderlings?
Only Royal Assassins. I'm only on book 2, but
Okay.
I
Okay.
loved Assassin's Apprentice a lot. So I am
Oh, good,
currently
good,
reading
good.
Royal Assassin, and then I'll jump into Assassin's Quest not long after. But there's also I really want to jump into Malazan at some point
Okay. Yeah.
because I that's definitely a series that I know I'm going to love, or it sounds like a series that I'm going to love,
Okay.
and
You
it's
like the
just
big
finding
ones, don't you? You like the big series.
yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. They need to be big
Wheel of
chunky
Time.
books.
Have you read Wheel of Time yet?
I've read the first two
Okay. Okay.
and I liked it. My original plan was to finish off the Wheel of Time before reading Hob, but
Uh-huh.
so many people were talking about Hob, and I don't want to read Wheel of Time back to back. I did feel like I need a break between the books.
Uh-huh.
So I thought I'm just going to put Wheel of Time kind of on hold and
You're
then read
basically
Hob.
like that meme with the guy with his hand around the one girl, but he's looking back at the other
Yeah,
girl.
pretty much.
Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
And then there's Realm of the Elderlings.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay. I always forget when I say I've only read Sanderson's Mistborn trilogy and the first three Stormlight Archive books. I always forget that I have read three more of his books. He finished Wheel of Time. So
Yes.
I have
Yes.
read those three books as well. And by the way, I think he did an admirable job of finishing that series. In
I've heard the
fact,
ending's really
some of
good.
my favorite moments were in those last three books. So I
That's
thought he
nice.
did a good job with that. But yeah, so what do you think so far of now you're 1.5 books in to Realm of the
Yeah, yeah.
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 Okay. What are
So
your thoughts so far?
I must say, I heard that Assassin's Apprentice was more one of our weaker books. So I
Hmm.
kind of went in with tempered expectations. I was like, even if it's just good, I'm going to continue it. But I ended up loving Assassin's Apprentice. I did a
Good.
full spoiler-filled video of my reading experience, and there's so much goes on in that book. Hob, I can see why she's like painted as like this, so like this terrible author to her characters. Is heartbreaking. She does so much, especially in that first book. And I've heard that Royal Assassin's even worse, which has me worried because
Yeah, that would be a yes. Yeah,
mm,
yeah. Mm.
some of the scenes in the first one were brutal. And I love her prose style. I think is really beautifully written book. I'm
Totally
really a
agree.
big fan of that. Very
Yeah.
immersive and easy to read, but
Yeah.
really, really, really beautifully written. So yeah, I'm loving it so far. I can already tell it's going to be a favorite.
Yeah. I recently finished the series early this year, and uh, I read Farseer actually years even before I started a YouTube channel, which means 6, 7, 8 years ago. I don't even know. And then took my time, read Live Ship Traders soon after I started the channel. And then there was
Mm.
another gap. And then just last year, Mike actually is the one who kind of gave me the push and said, "Hey, you want to read the rest of Realm of the Elderlings with me?" And I was like, "Yeah." So and I'm so glad because yeah, I mean, for me, the series my I have to say the two most impactful trilogies for me, and I loved Live Ship Traders. For me, the writing takes a step up from Farseer in Live Ship Traders for the most part, and I do love
Okay.
Farseer as well. Farseer is a first-person narrator, and Live Ship is the third-person narrator, and that makes a difference.
Okay.
That's an important difference. I love Fitz, though, of course, but the following trilogy, Tawny Man, is probably my favorite of all of the sub-series,
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
where I have to tell you, Andrew, I could not read for long patches of those three books because I was just bawling.
Really.
Yeah. The Tawny Man is where I've really just felt like, oh wow, now I understand how how devastating and beautiful this series really is. And Live Ship was just a beautifully executed itself, very impactful. But it was Tawny Man where I just lost it. And then there's Rain Wild's Chronicles, which I'm sure you've heard everyone say. It's kind of the least favorite of all the
Yeah.
installments for many people. I think it's very good. I actually think it's great. And it wasn't as emotionally impactful for me, but it was still a great read. Very glad I read it. I wouldn't recommend at all skipping it or anything. If anyone's ever said that to you, I would not skip Rain Wild's Chronicles.
Okay.
It adds so my the setting you'll see when you get there and the world building in there very important and very cool. I think the character work is not her best, but it's still very good. And then finally, Fitz and the Fool, the final trilogy, which is the favorite for many people, and for me,
Yeah, I've
Tawny
heard
Man
that.
sort of edges it out. But it was again just so emotional and so. Oh my goodness! Again, I had to raid Costco to get a massive amount of tissues for that one. So
Yeah. I must say, after my reactions to book one, people are like, oh no, it gets so much worse now. How can it get worse? I'm so
yeah.
concerned because the number of comments is like, oh, you sweet summer child. I'm like, oh, don't say that. How bad
Yeah.
can it get? So
Yeah.
I'm super excited to continue. I'm kind of tricked myself into thinking it's a trilogy because if I think about it being 16 books, it's so overwhelming.
That's
So
a good trick. It's a
the
very
idea
smart
of
thing to do. And like me, you
yeah,
can take time. I mean, some people would say, no, read everything right now. But really, I mean, take your time.
yeah. I'm a
So,
pretty slow reader, and obviously they can be quite chunky books.
yeah.
And this is going back to booktube and stuff as well. I do need to have books to talk about and make videos on.
I know that
Where
problem. Yes. Yeah.
yeah, so I
Yeah.
feel like taking on like a really chunky book is I need to be more careful about how I fit it in, just so I can read enough that I have things to talk about as well. But my
No,
favorite books are big, chunky, fancy books. So I'm like, I
it's
don't want it to
terrible.
sway what I'm reading as well. So it's a hard line to balance.
You're so right. It's a terrible truth that in a way BookTube, in a twisted kind of way, actually discourages reading because you get punished if you read a big long series of long books because you don't have quick, easy videos to make.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, I know this because I've done it a few times, that the further you get into a series, the fewer people are going to
Less
watch your
people tune in.
videos.
Yeah,
More
100%.
people will watch a video about book one than
Mm,
any of the books in between. Maybe if you present the whole series when you're done, that's what I've
yeah.
started to do. So when I finish, let's say Tawny Man, I make a video on why I love Tawny Man as a
Yeah.
whole. I don't talk about the third book. I
Yeah.
talk about the whole thing. That helps, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's too bad though that BookTube sort of punishes you for actually reading an entire series,
Yeah.
whereas it rewards you for trying a whole bunch of book ones, you know?
Yeah. 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 Because you just have so much to talk about and make videos on. I had that last year. Well, picked up this book. It was actually Andrew's Wizardly Reads. He was
Oh,
on Call or Alive with, I think it was Murphy, and he was talking about this series, and it's the most bizarre sounding series you will ever hear.
huh.
It's Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
I'd never heard of it before. I'd
Huh.
seen the covers, but I was like, looks bizarre. I'm not sure what to think about that. And he talked about the premise, and I was like, that sounds so ridiculous. I'm in. So I got the audiobook and it uprooted my entire TBR. I pretty much binged the books back to back, which is so uncommon for me. I don't binge that often anymore.
Huh.
So the fact that I just flew through it and I'm currently on book six, but obviously it is difficult to make videos on book six in a series.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
only did like a why you should read Dungeon Crawler Carl video after I read the first three and
yeah,
just kind of sung its praises for 15 minutes or whatever it was.
yep.
And I really want to make more videos on it, but I don't know how to make it that people will watch. But I just want to talk about how good this series is and how it continually gets better.
Do you know Brian from BellTube?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's a
Yes.
fan, I believe, of Dungeon.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
He's,
You should
I
get
heard him
together with
talking
him,
about
have a
him.
discussion on it maybe or something.
Yeah, that would be cool because I do want to find more people to talk about it with because
Yeah.
it's such a cool series. It's bizarre, and it does one of my favorite things where it kind of has this duality of tone, where it's really absurdist, bizarre humor, but it can also have some really dark elements and really big like depth to it. And
Ah,
that's one of my favorite combinations in narrative. A lot of my favorite stories do combine these two things, and
cool.
it's definitely a series that does that very well, especially as the books go on.
You might want to try, if you haven't yet already, the Dark Tower series by Stephen King then.
Yeah, I want to check it out, but I've heard because it's like tied to his other work. I feel like I need to read more King first.
I mean,
Or
okay, so there are definitely fans of King out there, the constant readers who will tell you that. I read The Dark Tower without reading anything else by Stephen King,
okay,
and I loved the series, and I have no regrets about doing it that way. So
okay.
yeah, I mean, if it's
Might do then.
honestly, if you have a book or a series and you have to read this and that and the other book that's not even part of the series in order to get the series,
Yeah,
that's a problem, I feel like.
I agree. Yeah,
I would
definitely.
say that with the possible exception of Wolves of the Kala, which is the fifth book, I think, in the series, there's really no moment where I felt like, gosh, I wish I had read this Stephen King book.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
with that one exception, and even then, I feel like the book actually did a good job of summarizing what I needed to know as someone
Okay.
who hadn't read the book that it depends on. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I
Which I
feel
feel
like
like you do need to do with these sort of interconnected series is you need to then have the book written so you can just read that first. I think
yeah,
again, going back to Sanderson, I think he does that really well because you can read Stormlight Archive without reading all the rest.
that's me.
So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah,
that's good to know
I
how
don't
I
think you're
do.
doing yourself a favor as an author if you're writing like a universe, like a multiverse for Stephen King or Cosmere for
Mm,
Brandon Sanderson. If you have to read everything in the series in order to make sense of anything, that's not really a good, I feel like. It's fun for the super fans, but it
Yeah,
would be a disincentive for a lot of people because they'd be like, I don't
100%.
want to read 30 books, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Malazan is like that too. There's almost 30 books,
Mm.
but there are series within that world that, Malazan Book of the Fallen being the biggest and longest and the most well known probably, but there are other series there too. So yeah, by
That's
both.
why that's one of the reasons why I picked up Hob now. Again, going back, is because it is broken down into these smaller series. It does make it
It's
a lot
nice.
more manageable, and
Yeah.
I like that. It's one thing I want to do with my own writing because I love these big connected universe over large scales of time and things.
Uh-huh.
So the Harbinger of Justice is the first book in a trilogy, but I do have plans for a series afterwards. And it's
Okay.
kind of this, yeah, because I do love that narrative structure of having these
Okay.
contained stories. You wouldn't need to have read Shadowbinders trilogy, but for the series after. But I do like the all the interconnectedness, but still
Okay.
having it its
Okay.
own
So
thing.
it's the Shadowbinders trilogy, book one,
Yes, yes,
and you're gonna have books two and three. When can we
yes.
expect book two?
Well, the first there's going to be a novella in summer.
Ah, okay.
It's going to be a prequel novella, and then book two. I'm really hoping by the end of the year.
Okay.
The absolute dream would be October, November.
All right. So you're pulling a
That's
Ryan
the
Cahill there and giving us a novella. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It seems to be said like the indie thing now is there's so many prequel novellas. But I did have this, there's a subculture in Taris that I didn't really get to explore in the book. But I
Oh,
had all this world building, and you meet one of the characters from that, and you're kind of wondering why he's there and what he's doing. So this is kind of his story before Harbinger of Justice, which was a
oh,
ton of
neat.
fun to write.
Okay. Yeah, and as an indie writer, I've heard Ryan Cahill talk about this, and he's well known for interspersing his books with novellas that are,
Yeah,
I think he would say, very much an important part of the overall vision. Um,
yeah,
and that seems to be a smart thing to do to help keep your world out there, keep your readers
mm,
excited to have something at least while he's working on the bigger book,
yeah, yeah.
so was that something that was entering your head as well, or did you just have to
Yeah,
tell the story, or a combination of those things?
a combination of both. It definitely had all this world building already there and this story already there. And then when I realized there's some scheduling problems behind the scenes for book two, that's my fault for getting it out. So it's going to be a wee bit later than I would have liked. I
Uh-huh.
really wanted to get it out during summer, so it's like a year from book one, but it's
Yeah.
going to be pushed to like towards the end of the year. So I thought I want to have something in between as well. And then I had all this world building and this story, and this character does play a bigger part in book two. So it just made so much sense to have his backstory and you don't need it, but it does add a lot to book two
Okay.
by reading it
Okay.
first.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's a great idea to have these novellas. Seems to be, I don't know if the word trend is the right word, but Mike had a discussion recently
I
with
saw
Ryan
that.
Cahill and
Christopher Rocchio,
Christopher
Sean
Rocchio and
Wallace.
Shauna Lawless
Yeah.
about novellas. So
Yeah.
yeah, you saw that one, huh?
I've not yet. It's in my watch later,
Oh,
but
okay, okay, okay. I
I
was
saw that they were doing it.
I was there during the live stream, so
Hmm.
it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and honestly, just the first half hour or so was talking about novellas, and then it got steered into a couple other topics.
As
uh,
these things do.
as these things do, live streams can do that. But the other topics are actually pretty cool too. Talked about the whole hard magic and soft magic's the thing for a while, and then there were some very interesting hot takes in that video.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah,
Sounds interesting.
I think more in the spirit of fun than anything else.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
of
it
course.
was it was a great conversation. But yeah, I actually have read of the three authors. I intend to read two of them this year. I intend to get into Sun Eater, and I intend to get into The Bound and the Broken this year. Probably I won't be able to get into either until May, but that's because I'm doing SPFBO. I'm being a judge for that. But I have read Shauna Lawless's first book, The Children of Gods and Fighting Men, and loved it. Great historical fantasy, good stuff. Drawing on Irish myth and actual historical figures during the Viking Age and stuff like that. Really cool stuff.
That sounds really good. I have Sun Eater and Shauna Wallace on my TBR. I've read most of Ryan's work. I'm up to the third book, which is of War and Ruin, which
Uh,
is the one that's like 1,000 pages, which is partly why I've not picked it up yet. So I
that
do
is
want to
like
really continue that.
400,000 some odd words, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically a Stormlight book in size. It's ridiculous. Because he
Wow.
said he even had to play with the formatting to get it below a certain page count because the printers wouldn't print it how it was when he first ran it through. So I had to like I think he dropped the font like down by 0.5 or something to just chop off X amount of pages
Good thing
just so
I
the
have my
printers could
reading
print it.
glasses now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Wow. So you've read the
it's
first book, the first novella, and you're into the second book.
I've read the first book, the second book, and two novellas. The
Oh,
prequel novella,
okay.
but there is a novella between two and three that I've read, The Exile, which was really,
Okay.
really good. So,
And everybody, Ryan Cahill is sick of being asked this question, I think. So I'll ask you, what would be the best order for me to read it in? What should I start with?
I'm in the boat that I think reading of Blood and Fire first, which mainly because The Fall is excellent, but of Blood and Fire, I think you get a lot more from The Fall by reading the book
Okay.
first because
The
it's very
publication order, then you're saying publication.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes. That would be my
Even though
opinion.
I believe the fall takes place long before the first
It
book,
does. Yeah,
chronologically. Okay.
yeah, yeah. But
Okay.
to be fair, references work both ways. Going back to our conversation about Sanderson and Stephen King,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter that much because the references will work. You'll be like, oh, that's a character from the other one,
Yeah.
and that works both ways.
It's a
But
two-way street, right? Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
But I read Of Blood and Fire first, and I'm glad I did it that way because I do feel like I got more from the fall because of reading and starting with A Blood and
Uh-huh.
Fire. And A Blood and Fire does feel like the start of like a classic fantasy story. And it feels like a good way to get into the series, in my opinion.
Okay.
But I know
Okay.
people who want to try The Fall just to try out Ryan's work or try out the
Okay. So it's
world or try out
shorter.
his
Yeah.
writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why novellas are so popular with indie as well, because it's a great way to just have this free short piece of writing that you can just kind of dabble in and try different authors and see which one works for you. So
Yeah. Are you intending to offer your novella for free? You are.
yeah,
Okay.
the ebook will be free. Yeah,
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So that again is a that's a marketing strategy that has worked really well
yeah,
for Ryan Cahill, of course.
yeah,
Uh, but I think other people are doing it now too. So
yeah. Seems to
cool.
be a pretty popular structure for indies just to get something out there, and especially because people are less, not less likely, but they're more careful with debuts and indies in particular. That
Yeah.
stigma is lessening, which is great.
Yeah.
But with having something that you can give out for free, there's kind of no risk there other than your time. And because it is short, it helps too. It means you can just kind of try it out. So it's like a marketing thing, but also just, I just think it's a great way of structuring a story as well as having this kind of just little teaser just to see if you like that
Yeah.
story or that style.
Yeah, no, it's great to be. I mean, we are in an age where number one, indie is more viable than ever, and it's wonderful. And also, when authors are more connected with their readers than ever, and for an author to say, "Here, beloved reader, here's a free novella for you," I think
Yeah.
it's great. It's really smart, and it's just another way that I think we indie authors can try to connect with our readers. I mean, look, you and I have YouTube channels. We get
Mhm.
comments from people who have read our books, and we can
Yeah.
be in little discussions with them. We can make videos about our books. We can go on other people's channels and talk about our books. And the opportunities for us to interact with readers are vaster than ever. And I think that's
100%.
mostly a good thing.
Yeah.
It does mean that we spend probably more time on the, I don't want to just call it marketing because it sounds so vulgar, but we spend more time on that side than we do on the reading. I don't know. Is that true for you? Do you think you spend more time on social media and YouTube and just connecting with folks than you do with actual writing?
Oh yeah, 100%. It definitely is a bit of a struggle because there is so much to juggle with the writing and social media, and then the actual creating, and then the reading. It's really tough. But I do think the readers have the same problem because I'm in group chats where we talk about books, and so many people say I'm spending my time in here talking about books when I should be reading. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of benefits, and I do think that social media is doing more good than bad, sort of bringing this community feel to it. And I love that. I love being able to talk to people about books. I don't really know many people in real life who read fantasy. So being able to have this back and forth with people it's the best, and talk about books I'm reading and get recommendations. So I do think it does more good than bad. And I think it does get painted as this terrible thing sometimes, which it isn't. But yeah, it does take away time from reading. So there's negatives, but pros
I
and
think
cons.
everybody has their own balance, and
Mhm.
they'll figure out what works for them, hopefully, what's healthy for them. For me, the discussions are what I live for on
Yeah.
YouTube. I love discussions on books. I love the deep dives. And I know they're not the most popular thing, but there's a whole subsection of people on BookTube who really do love these discussions, and I'm definitely here for those people. And I think it adds so much value to my reading experience when I talk to two or three other people who are reading the series with me or who have read the series. And suddenly I see things I didn't see before. I make connections. They help me to see the experience, the story in a new light. And it just adds so much to the experience. I can even tell you about books that I've read where I enjoyed the discussions more than the book. And that's
Yeah.
great. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. And that eventually, though, the discussion did add to my appreciation of the book. So
Mhm.
that is huge, but you can't spend all your time in discussions and not reading. So
No.
it is tricky to find that balance. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
I mean, I've been around a little longer than you, so I have a slight advantage, and but I'm still nowhere near reading all the stuff that I want to read. I make videos now. I'm making this series of top 10 this, top 10 that, where I'm
Yeah,
talking
that'd be
about
great.
the books, the fantasy books, the authors who make me cry, the ones who make me laugh, the ones who make me think. And today I released one on prose, and so I'm going on and on with this because I hate making top 10 videos. So why not make a bunch of them?
They're so tough to nail down, top tens. But I must say, I watched your top 10 ones, authors that make you laugh, because
Uh-huh,
after reading Dungeon Crawler Carl, I've just been really wanting more funny fantasy books. So I'm like
uh-huh.
sitting there with my notepad, noting them down. So I do love those types of videos where you're just kind of getting more
Cool.
niche recommendations for a certain mood that you're in, and
And me
intrigue.
too. I make these videos fully realizing that people are going to make comments. I'm wanting these comments about books I haven't read yet or ones that I
Yeah,
didn't consider. It's fantastic because, and that's the thing about top 10 lists. One of the things I hate about making them is I always feel like I'm not really qualified to say because I haven't read every book out there yet. But who
yeah,
has? Who has?
yeah,
So I hope it's a valuable little conversation starter, really, is what
yeah,
it's supposed to be. Not me definitively saying these are the top 10, that's not what
yeah.
it is. Yeah. So I
I,
hope I
I do
come
think
across.
I hope that most people know that, because
Yeah.
it's a very small percentage of people who leave comments on those types of videos saying you're wrong, you're incorrect. But
Yeah.
I do think that most people know is your opinion to share these what you think is your personal top 10 in a certain area. But
Yeah.
you're always going to find that small percentage. Like your
Oh,
opinion
yeah.
is wrong.
Every single time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had
And sad.
people for various configurations of you're wrong, some with very colorful language.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
some who are mad at me because I put their favorite series at number 9 or 10 or whatever, or I
Mm,
didn't put it on there at all, and how dare I,
yeah.
and but this is my list,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
yeah, and I haven't read that yet. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, no, it's fun as long as you take it in the right spirit, I think.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's a very small percentage, but as that viewership does increase, that percentage even rises as well. So
I think
even though
so.
it's still a
Yeah.
small amount of people, it does increase over time, which I think it was Patrick was talking about this with Bookborn on maybe in Twitter or something, about the
Uh-huh.
fact that as soon as you hit a certain threshold, you start seeing them more and more, and you're like, which is it's not good, but there's always going to be people like that. You need to just block it off.
Oh yeah. And some of them are just being passionate fans, and
Yeah,
some of them are actually being trolls.
yeah, yeah,
There's definitely a line that can be crossed where I will just block, and then
Yeah.
bye.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think a little bit of passionate advocacy for your favorite series of all time. Okay, I'll take that,
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. I like passion. As long as you're not being a jerk about it,
Yeah. 100%.
but yeah, no, it is true that and Petrick and Bookborn have both grown faster than I have in terms of their audience. So
Mm.
they may even see more of it than I do, but you do tend to get as your video is pushed out by YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess that's one of the benefits of being boring for me is that yeah,
That's
my
not true.
audience is safer. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's part of the game. It's part of the game. And as a
Yeah.
writer, you're going to find that too. As more and more people
100%.
read your book, there are going to be people who love it and
Yeah.
gush about it. And you're probably seeing more of those in the early stages. And as the book gets out there and is more well known and more people try it, you're going to have people writing some really mean things on
Yeah.
Goodreads.
Yeah.
And some of them will write mean things because you're a booktuber.
Yeah.
So that happened to me. Uh,
Really.
oh yeah,
That's so just doesn't make any sense.
yeah.
It's
Yeah. Well, in
insane.
my case, I was writing these books for 18 plus years, and I
Hmm.
was booktuber for 3 years when I started to publish them. So, I don't feel like I was a booktuber first and then a writer.
Yeah.
Not that
Yeah.
that even matters, because it's fun,
No. Yeah.
I think, for somebody who has worked hard to build up a platform to make use of it, to say, hey guys, I wrote a book. Here it is.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. In fact, I suspect that most people who successfully build a platform like that and want to write will also say, "Hey guys, I wrote a book."
Yeah. Yeah. Of
So
course.
yeah,
And a lot of people who are following you will be interested to hear that information because
right,
if they're following you, they'll probably have similar tastes as you, which means that they like the inspirations, so they'll probably like the book. It
exactly.
it's crazy thinking to me. I don't know if it's just these people have had one bad experience and then they've gone, that's it. I don't like all booktuber
Yeah.
books,
Oh yeah.
but it's the same nonsense as like, oh, I read one Scottish author. Now all Scottish authors, I must not like their work either. It
Yeah.
just
No,
doesn't make sense.
I literally had a person leave a comment before my first book was even published. Your book is going to suck because you're a booktuber. Yeah. Okay.
It's
Yeah.
bizarre.
Yeah. It's
I
crazy.
think booktube has actually made me a better writer just because I'm a lot more.
Yes.
When I read books, I'm a lot more critical or a lot more. I analyze them a lot closer because I know I'm going to talk about them, and I look at structure and character and things so I can discuss it and make videos on it. So I do think
Yes.
that's improved me as a writer rather than made me worse somehow.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, that is another reason why I'm always saying I don't separate these things because I learn a lot about writing from being on this platform. I learn a lot about writing by teaching, and I learn a lot about writing by writing. So
Yeah.
it's all kind of going to the same river, if you will, the different little channels going to that same river, which I don't think they're separable, honestly. But so yeah, I totally agree with you. I think you said it beautifully. That's. So I do wish you much success yourself here on this platform and with your writing and all of your endeavors with your editing and stuff, your bread and butter.
Thank you.
Hopefully the writing will be an increasing chunk of that pie
I
of
hope
yours.
so.
I'm wishing you the best with your series and with your writing and just much fulfillment with all of that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. This really was an honor.
Yeah. Oh, pleasure. Pleasure. I really enjoyed chatting with you, Andrew. And everybody who has been watching, thank you so much. Go and check out Andrew's channel. There will, of course, be a link in the description. Check it out and look at his wonderful content and give his book a try. Andrew, what's the best way for people to get a hold of a copy of Harbinger of Justice?
should be available most places you can buy books. Physicals on everywhere, really. The
Okay.
ebooks are on Amazon, but physicals across the board. So you should be able to
Okay.
get them anywhere where you buy books.
The ebook is KDP. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. And will there be audiobooks as well?
Eventually, hopefully, none in the works currently, but I'm
Okay.
hoping so one day.
Okay. Because everybody asks me that about
But
audiobooks.
yeah, same. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. And everybody, until next time.